Welcome to the Education Podcast, where it's all about helping people and organizations unleash their greatness. The Education Podcast features lively discussions.
When they share it, you see that they're beginning to feel empowered.
My heart, it's full of pride for me to be at Mai Samoa.
You don't necessarily need a degree these days. There's so many pathways to success.
Welcome to the Education Podcast. Welcome to the Education Podcast, where it's all about unleashing your greatness, both personally and professionally. In today's fast-paced, tech-driven world, staying ahead isn't just a bonus, it's essential. That's why this episode is focused on future-proofing yourself in an AI-driven world. Joining us today is Tyrone, an innovator, passionate about empowering Māori and Pacific people by bridging the digital divide. Through his hands-on workshops, Tyrone simplifies AI or artificial intelligence, making it accessible and practical for anyone who's looking to work smarter, boost productivity, and adapt to rapid changes reshaping every industry. In this episode, we'll explore how you can stay relevant, harness AI's potential, and avoid being left behind in a world that's consistently evolving with technology. Whether you're aiming to level up in your career or prepare yourself for the future, this conversation is going to be useful. I'm going to ask you an icebreaker question. Can you share something interesting about Tyrone that not many people know about?
Interesting about Tyrone. I don't really have a cool one. But I think what's interesting, so I've played sport all my life, so I played rugby league all my life, and obviously to play that sport you have to go out and play on the dirt. What people don't know is that I'm actually partially allergic to grass and dirt, so I've had a whole life of, going out there, my body starts showing kind of like hives and everything too, so I guess if you're passionate about something, you'll go through anything to play it, so yeah, I thought that was interesting. Not cool as, but something I've had to live with and
nice. The real question is, were you ever good at sport? No, you don't have to answer that one.
Okay, dude, where do we start?
We started again. We started rolling. No, that's pretty cool, man. That's pretty cool. I mean, it just goes to show, if you really love something, even if it hurts you a little bit or whatever it is, it's hard, you're still going to do it. You're going to find a way. But look, I'm excited to have you on a podcast because, when I think of artificial intelligence and someone who's doing it for our people, Pacific and Māori, you're someone that really stands out to me. We've had a few catch-ups. We spoke about this. You just have this huge energy and passion for AI. So let's start there. Let's define what is AI for our audience, or artificial intelligence. Break it down for us and why is it important?
Yeah, good question. Well, I've had a few goes at this, bro, so I should have this pitch around what AI is. But in simple form, it's basically system or machines that are able to understand, think, and act like humans. And that's the simple way of putting it. Obviously, there's a whole lot of things that you can say about it. But I think the important part there is like humans. And, with what's coming or what's already here, there are things that it's able to do that I think myself and others are starting to recognize that, hey, this thing's a bit smart, and what else can it do for us and for the future? So that's what AI is. And I think for me, what's caught my interest, I've always had a love for technology and seeing where it goes, but I think we're starting to see, a different shift because this can do a lot more than current technology.
Yeah. What's the current feel out there when people think of AI, the technology that can think and act and make decisions like humans? Like for some people, when they think of that, they can be quite scary. Like, will it replace me? Will it control me? Like, what's the vibe, general vibe that you're getting out there around AI?
Yeah, so I think, to be honest, if I think about when I'm online, I feel like it feels like everyone's playing on it, everyone's having a go at it. If I was talking to my family and friends, people are barely playing with it. So, there's a very big difference what I'm seeing in terms of those that are and those that are not. And for those that are not, I think there's kind of different reasons why. I think many of us are familiar with Terminator and the whole Skynet thing. And, is this the start of something that's going to take over us? I'm going to say I actually don't know the answer to that question. We may get deeper into that. But also think, secondly, people haven't recognized what it can actually do for you. And I think for me and the stuff that I do is trying to show people like just a little insight of what it can do for you. And I think hopefully open like, wow, this could actually be, something like a leverage for many things.
I love that. So what can AI do for us?
Yeah, so I think kind of give some context. I think the the thing that we're in right now, right, is that we're in a kind of age where I guess social media and their rules, and I would call that the sharing age, you know, whether it's sharing stuff about yourself, sharing what other people are doing. I guess before that, we had kind of the search age, you know, going on Google. If you're old enough, you had Ask Jeeves, and, you know, you go search for something. I think what we're now in is what I'm calling the solve era. Okay, so now we have things like AI that can actually help solve stuff. So when we're talking about AI and what it can do, it can actually help us solve stuff anywhere from, like, you know, things like if I'm talking about sport, you know, how can it solve a challenge that I'm going through or something I want to get better at, to something at work, you know, what you're working with. So when you kind of take that lens and take that thinking, it can give you a better idea of, like, you know, how you can actually use AI today.
Yeah, so it can help you, you know, I guess solve things quite quickly. I mean, we also got to, I guess, understand the difference between going to AI to help me solve a problem versus, you know, for example, going to see a therapist or a doctor to help solve a particular problem as well. Eh?
Yeah.
Like, I guess, how do you navigate that space? If someone wants to use AI in their personal life or even at work, you know, when is the right time to use AI to solve a problem?
Yeah, so I think for the way that I kind of share and talk about it, so I think there's obviously the tools that exist, but what's most important is kind of your own discernment. So your ability to kind of know, you know, and that's just in general, right? Whether you're using technology or you're talking to someone, is having your kind of own understanding and using that to kind of guide conversations as well. So nothing different with AI. You can ask all those questions. Like, I've actually had it, you know, I talked about, you know, some of the challenges I have, and I still have them. I actually took a photo of it and got it to ask and tell me what it is, and it can actually give you a description of it. Now, again, I take that with a grain of salt, right? Because I don't expect this to kind of like, be a doctor, although it has that data to kind of pick from. But then I can use my discernment and go, oh, that's probably what I'm doing. Maybe I can use this information, go online and actually search for whatever I need to help me. So again, do all of it. But I always say to people, like, you have to make a decision whether you want to listen to that or kind of talk with it more or go get more information around that.
I like it. Can we take it a little bit further as well? And, you know, this podcast is all about helping people unleash their greatness, both personally and professionally.
Yep.
How can something like AI or artificial intelligence help unleash someone's greatness?
Yeah, so where do I start with this? I think for many people, it's just actually having to go first. And the reason why I say that is because, and I might go a little bit of a tangent to hopefully come back, is that I think when it comes to unleashing your greatness, I think you have to start somewhere, right? And I think with AI, one of the things that I'm finding with just people I'm talking to, maybe because they don't see a need for it, or maybe it's just like no one's helped them, I guess, play with it. First, you have to play with it and see what it can do. And I guess from that, journey, you'll start to see many other ways. And for me, why I say play with it, people like to ask me a lot around, like, what are some prompts? What can I do? Or like, so prompts are questions that I can ask it. I'm like, nah, just think about solve. Like, what have you got in terms of a problem or challenge? Ask it. You know, it could be something as personal, you know, something to do with your relationship. Again, I'm not telling you to get relationship advice from it, but you can just give it a problem and see where it takes you. And for most people, it might not give you the answer. And I don't think I use AI necessarily to find answers for me. I get it to actually just get me unstuck. Like, I've got this challenge. I'm going to put this challenge to it. I'm not expecting it to give me the answer, but it's going to give me some other thoughts to think about that I can now unpack and then ask more questions, or then go find someone else that I can talk to about this. So when we're talking about how it can unleash your greatness, I think we need to start with it first, but don't feel like you have to have all the understanding of how to use it. Just, you know, get your device, whether it's a laptop or a phone, write on a problem that you got, and that's kind of let it go from there.
I love that. I know you've shared a little personal experience already around, like, taking a photo, checking out AI, like, AI, what is this? You know, give me an idea. Take it with a grain of salt. But take us to the moment where you first learned about AI and had a bit of a play with it. Because I agree with you. You said, you know, in order to truly understand something, you've got to try it out first for yourself. Then you know, right? Don't just take someone else's words for it. Do it yourself. Mm-hmm. So take us to your experience, the moment you experienced AI for the first time. What was that like? What did you learn? Because you're passionate about it.
Yeah, bro. So that's actually a really good question, because I feel like I can't actually think the moment. I think it's been a series of moments that have played out. But I remember when I first tried ChatGPT, when that first came mainstream, because obviously for us as business owners, for a lot of us, we're looking at what's coming, what's trending, and there was this thing called ChatGPT. Now, I never jumped on it when it first came, But to be honest, I saw when it first kind of popped out how many users it got. So it was one of the fastest in terms of users and in terms of a platform. So I can't remember the exact stats around it, but I remember it being like something that took Facebook a few months. It was able to get the same amount of users in so many days. And I was like, oh, well, if it's that cool, or what it is, I want to see what it is. So that was kind of my first meeting of it, obviously, and playing with a large language model. So it's a large language models like ChatGPT. You guys might be familiar with Meta AI, which you can get on your Facebook and Instagram. Those are all just large language models that you can play with. So they're in the sphere of AI, but they're just a piece of the whole thing. But when I got to play with it, I was like, oh yeah, I just used it like a search engine. I thought it was like Google. Like, I want to know about something in history. I think I first asked about it. And obviously I like sport. I started asking about that. And it wasn't until I went on YouTube and saw how others were using it, I was like, oh, you're telling me you could reply to emails? Oh, you're telling me you can do these things? So then I started kind of playing with it and realizing like, oh, wow, I can actually do a lot more than just, search for something that I need answer to. It can actually solve something I need help with.
I like it. So it basically started with you're curious, like,
Yeah.
well, what is this thing, AI, versus Facebook? You checked it out, you had a bit of a play with it. I was like, well, this is quite interesting. Then you went onto YouTube, you learned more, and now you're like giving back to the community. Like you're out there providing workshops, teaching Pacific and Māori communities this thing, AI, and how to use it. Tell us what inspired you to and be passionate about supporting Pacific and Māori, especially when it comes to like digital and AI.
Yeah, so I think, the obvious one is, being both Māori and Cook Island. I have a love for my people, and I think I've always had this kind of innate thing. I think it's many of us that, once we get to a certain place, how do we share that back or share that with people around us? So I think that's always been there through not just the work of AI, but just generally through my life. So a lot of the things that I've run in terms of business, being in kind of community spaces, it's because it's been about helping our people. So that's always been there. I guess on top of that is that obviously the whole digital divide. Traditionally for us, we've always been kind of the ones that are playing catch up when it comes to this stuff. So I think for me, it was a case of like, okay, this is here. It's obviously a lot of users. What is it? I want to play with it and see what I can do for myself. And I realized like, as I was doing all these things, I started talking to family members and they're like, what is that? And I was like, oh man, there's like, there's a gap here. And this is just this technology, let alone all the other stuff that we're still trying to, get in front of. So that was all a part of it. And then I think for me too, like what was significant, I guess for all of our lives was COVID. When COVID came, especially as someone that ran a business, I wasn't major affected in that way, but, a lot of people, clients were affected. So for me, it kind of like raised this idea of like, I got to be a bit more forward thinking of around like, what are these things that are coming and how can we navigate some of the stuff? So AI, I think is one of those things that I still have the jury's still out around, what it's going to actually do for us in terms of the big impact. But it's going real quick. And I feel like when things go real quick, obviously it's going to be even harder for people to kind of catch up to it. So I just felt like I'm doing some really cool stuff in it. I just want to share this back and see how many of us that we can share this with and hopefully get more people in front of this wave.
Yeah, thank you for the work you're doing for our people. I'm very passionate about how helping Pacific and Māori, especially when it comes to technology, there is a huge digital divide and our people are just, there's a huge gap there. And you look at AI and the acceleration of AI and how fast that technology is growing. It's almost everywhere now.
Yeah.
AI with Microsoft, AI ChatGPT, AI for video editing, AI for photos. Like it's everywhere now. Facebook has its own AI, Meta, right? So it's everywhere. And I feel like with AI coming in, it's making the digital divide even more bigger for our people. So, we're talking about AI, when people think of technology, they also think, oh, maybe I need money to access that. Maybe I need a computer to access that, which for the most part is true, right? If someone wants to start using AI, what's your recommendation? Like, when can they start?
Yeah, bro. Good question. So I think just some of the examples you've shared, and I'm a person that likes to, especially with the workshops I do and all of that, talk around how to use ChatGPT, how to use Anthropic's Claude, because those are some of the models that have some of the, I guess, recorded higher intelligence. But if you want to start today and start tomorrow, I know a lot of us are on Facebook or Instagram. You've got Meta AI, and you can do everything. Not everything, but most things on the free plan that these ChatGPT and Claude have on Meta AI. So if you want to know how to, as an example, reply to an email, you can grab something that you're trying to reply to, chuck it in there, and go, "How can I reply to this?" So you can do it. That's the easiest way right now. But then you might find, okay, I want some more capabilities, uploading documents, uploading photos, using other capabilities that some of these other platforms have. Then you can migrate to those and pay for those if you want to. So yeah, that's the easiest way. Just go onto your Facebook, go up to your conversations or your search link, and it'll just jump straight up and go for it.
I love that. You have a conversation with using AI and solve problems using it. I love that. AI is already on your Facebook. If you're using Facebook, go onto the app and play with it. So, the cool thing about AI, I've had the opportunity to play with it. AI doesn't just write back to you, it can speak back to you. You can talk to it and it can speak back. And the other cool experience I had the other day was I was speaking to it in Tongan, in Samoan, in Māori, and it will respond back Samoan, Tongan, Māori.
Yep.
It can translate things to you verbally from English to any language. I was like, man, that is crazy. Imagine people with English as their second language using AI to help them translate things or to understand and learn things.
Yeah, bro.
If people realize the potential. But look, I agree with you. AI can do so much if you understand it and know how to use it, right? So there is that education piece. You might put AI in front of people, but they don't know how to use it, right? So that's where the education comes in. But let's talk about the other side of it. Like, what are some things that we need to be careful of when it comes to AI? Are there things that we need to be worried about? Or
Yeah, bro. There definitely are. I think just going back to something I raised before around that whole discernment thing, right? With any technology, right? And I'll get into how it plays out. If we're not careful of who we are and what we stand for, these things can run us, right? And we see it in social media right now, right? If you're like myself sometimes that likes to doom scroll, they can just take all your time and you kind of just lose yourself in it. You don't even sometimes recognize that you've just spent an hour watching funny memes. Again, I'm not saying it's bad, but if you're like myself that's running a business and I need to go do these actions, that's not necessarily the best use of your time. Now, I think from what I'm seeing is that it's just going to get it's going to be the great things it's going to be able to do. But in terms of increasing like us doing stuff we don't want to do, there's a big chance that AI is going to be a part of that. And I think specifically talking to it is around dependency. So we're going to get to a place, and it's already here, and there's already technology out, AI enabled technology out, where it can plan your time. So imagine going about your day and you're like, oh yeah, I want to do this, that, and the third. AI is smart enough to recognize like, oh, he was doing this every Monday, he was doing this every Tuesday. Why don't I suggest what he should do? So we're going to get into this pattern where AI is suggesting what to do, right? Hey, Tyrone, why don't you go do this because you used to do that and you love this and I see you want to always do this. But eventually, who's now saying what I do with my time? We're going to have technology that's telling us what to do with our everyday, with our time, which I think is a good part. I want it because I want that support. But then when you take that away, are you going to be able to plan your time as you once were because you're like so dependent? Like, where's this thing telling me what to do? So I think there's a whole sphere of things coming around that, around dependency on the stuff that we really see exist in technology now, that I think AI is going to be, it's going to be helpful, it's going to be a companion, but also it's going to be like, we're going to get to a place like my phone. If I can't find my phone, I'm tapping like, where's my phone? We're going to be like, where's AI? Where's AI helping me with stuff? So I think that's a thing to think about. Another thing, just even with current AI, is that it uses a lot of technology. It uses a lot of energy, sorry. And, for us, for me, I guess, Māori and Pacific, Indigenous, we care for our people, but also the planet. And currently the way that these systems have to run is that they have to have a lot of compute power. So they do consume a lot of energy. So that is a concern. And I'm open with that. And a lot of people challenge, like, why are we using it? And I think it's through it. Because if these things can get smarter, they can help us tell us what we can do to be more efficient with our computing, So it's not probably the best answer people want to hear because obviously people are thinking about the planet, right now. But I think through it we can find solutions because it can help us and help those that are working on it get there hopefully faster. So yeah, those are kind of the two main things. And then the third thing that I'm looking at is I'm going to use, so there's a person that I follow, there's many things I follow, but one person's actually coined this term of better, faster, cheaper, safer. Okay, so like if we actually look at not just within AI, but if we go back, like all technology advancement is because it's better, it's faster, it's cheaper, and it's safer. Now, when it comes to us in terms of the way that we work, right? Currently, you know, for a lot of work, humans are the best to be able to do a job. But if we use AI and if we use robotics, and I don't know if you guys have seen, there's Figure, it's another big company in the US. They've got a partnership now with BMW. And now they've got robots with enabled AI in their warehouses doing a lot of stuff. So people are like, oh, you know, like it's quite efficient. I haven't seen it for my eyes, but I've seen a lot of research on it and looked at it. And it's doing a lot of the work that, you know, humans were doing before. And people criticize like, oh, you know, it doesn't look, you know, natural. You know, it looks like it could be a bit faster. I'm like, but this is the dumbest it's ever going to be. You know, so if these things get better, these things get faster, these things get cheaper, these things get, you know, become more safer, I think there's a big question around what does that mean for, you know, human labor and employment, and what does that look like? So I think there's an opportunity to augment ourselves with it right now. You know, how do we leverage it? But then comes a future where, and I'm going to be, you know, pretty real about this. You know, if, as a business owner, someone that's been able to, I guess, you know, be employed and become a business owner. For me, I try my best to think of the interests of, you know, the people that are in my company, but we know that not every company's like that, you know. And if we're thinking about what big businesses' interests are and corporate interests are sometimes, they're trying to think about what's the best bang for their buck. So for me, there's a collide that's going to potentially happen. Ideally, it doesn't happen anytime soon, so we've got time to kind of do stuff around it. But yeah, there's a high chance that if these things get better, faster, cheaper, and safer, and that's a term by a guy named Dave Shapiro. I don't want to say that I claim it, but he's helped me like, wow, actually, there's a massive risk to, you know, our future of employment, I guess.
So that AI can do so much for us in our personal and professional life, and we've seen as well, like, you know, you've seen what it's done in some industries, but people are starting to think about using AI or are using it for like military, drones. You know, the ones that I saw, they look like dogs, but they're robotic ones and they can move around.
Yeah.
And you know, it sounds like AI is moving and changing everything. Right? And what about, because I think about ethics as well, and I think about security, because you mentioned the word safe, but is it really? Like, you know, like people are still hacking these days. There's a lot of spam, people just breaking into things. Like, do you see AI being used against humanity or used against organizations in a non-ethical way?
Yeah, like I to be honest, I think so too. And I don't actually like necessarily think just AI. I just think, you know, obviously with us as humans, you know, there's many things that are happening right now across the world that humans are doing a bad effort, I guess, a bad effort on this world. And if you give them the tools like AI, you know, just 1 + 1 = 2 in this regards, you know, I think people are going to use it. In terms of AI becoming in its own self something that can do some significantly bad to us, there's a chance of that. And I feel like for me, part of these workshops is to show people how to leverage them, but to actually get people conscious around this conversation. And, you know, what does that mean? You know, what can we do? What are the things that we can do to kind of get upskilled and understanding of where this thing's going, so then we can be better for it? Because I think there's a future, or not even future, there's going to have to be a thing where we talk about it at a government level, like what does this look like in terms of regulation and all that jazz. Because it's just, yeah, we don't know what we don't know. And to even give a real good example of this in terms of even some of these companies that are doing AI unsure themselves. So what you can do on, there's Anthropic, they have Claude, so it's a model. So they have a thing where you can use their API. So for anyone that doesn't know what API is, basically it's ability for computers to talk to each other. So, you know, different software to talk to each other. So this is how you can connect things up. So what you can do now is they've got a thing called computer use. So what it can basically do is that it can take over your computer. So it can take over your computer and run actions for you. But in order to set it up, it tells you have to set it up in a container. So instead of it sitting straight on your computer, you put it into it's like a container. Basically, it's on your computer, but it's not like able to go through everything on your computer. It's the basic way of explaining it, but it has real hard guidelines on we do not want to connect to your computer because we're unsure. So if you've got companies that are actually running these things saying they're unsure, that leads the question of like, we a lot of us are still unsure around how this is going to play out, but also we shouldn't be fearful of not playing with these things because we have to figure it out as well. So I don't want to fear anyone. There's a lot of hope and optimism with me, but even some of these big companies are unsure of what it could do if it had access to everything that we have.
Well, it sounds like a very, when you say the word unsure, then it gives the feeling of unsure. It's like, I don't know how to feel about it. Like, I don't know if I'm sitting on the fence now even more, but confused about whether AI is the thing I should be pro or against. But what's your opinion? What are your general feelings? I know you read a lot, you listen a lot, you know a lot about AI. What do you think the future will look like?
Yeah, so I think I've sat on this for a while. Because I think there is that existential dread of this, like, oh, shucks, are we actually going to get wiped out? Is this Skynet thing real? So I've sat on it, and then I've kind of looked around to kind of see what others thought of it. And I always go to this guy, his name's Moga Dot, another AI thought leader in the space, and he talks about kind of our relationship with stuff, right? So if you talk about our own intelligence compared to a fly, right? We obviously, well, I don't know, fly might be real smart in its own way, but obviously when it comes to us and how we operate, we would consider ourselves highly larger and smarter than a fly. But for most of us, we whack a fly away and, when it's annoying, but for most of us humans, we see a need for flies. So flies actually have something that they actually do for humans. People didn't know. I didn't know. I thought I just kill these flies, but obviously they do some stuff within nature to kind of help. So what he's saying is that if this thing becomes smarter than us, there is still going to be there's all the opportunity and chance that this thing will still see us as something that's still beneficial to this world. So I'm kind of leaning into that not to say that we are a fly, but if this thing becomes smart and our intelligence levels are so significantly different, it's still going to see the need for us. So that's kind of what I'm leaning to. And again, people will be like, that's not enough for me. But I'm like, for me, I feel like that gives me enough optimism to say that if we look at ourselves and we as humans obviously have shown over history we're treating people bad, but we do see the need for others. And I feel like potentially that's the thing with AI. There's going to be some bad actors, and then there's going to be things that say, "No, we need humans to help us with going forward too." So
that's crazy. When I hear that, basically what you're saying is AI has the potential to surpass humans, and the analogy is we're the flies.
We could be,
and they at the intellectual level. So there's going to be a hierarchy, and they will be in a position where it can decide. When I say they, I mean it can decide whether a fly can live or not, right? Or does it have purpose or not? Mm-hmm. That doesn't appeal to me at all. But I guess, how do we, because in my mind, and it's not selfish, it's not ego, humanity should always be at the top. Mm-hmm. So if anything, AI should complement and enhance or support humanity.
Yeah.
And not be in a position where it's above humanity. Mm-hmm. So that, to me, when I hear that, that's quite scary. That's not a future that I would want my generations to get into.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
And I think that's a fair question, and that's something that I'm, like, again, it's not trying to create fear, but it's like, actually, this is something we actually have to take heed of, and what is it gonna do for our people? And people will be like, because I've had like real deep conversations with people and gone on to real big things around this, and people are like, but it will never be conscious like humans. And the argument I've always presented is like, it doesn't need to be conscious like us. If it can output, what we can and plus more, we don't need it to be conscious like us, because that's even a question in itself, right? Like, where does consciousness come from and all of that? But if this thing can perform actions, like you said, get into a drone and think it can do some of the stuff, like that's in itself powerful, we don't even get to that whole space of consciousness. So then the question lies, like, what are we going to do about it? And I think these are the, besides the fact of like, utilizing it for work and other uses, it's like, actually, what does it mean to have an intelligence that's smarter than us? And a lot of companies are really trying to do it. ChatGPT is one, or OpenAI. They've been doing a whole experiment of, they're trying to say, I can't remember the name of the experiment, but they're trying to see how they can use their older, dumber models, so like ChatGPT 3, and how it can influence the brainier models. So it's trying to think, if we're the humans that are the dumber models, how can we actually influence the intelligence? So they're trying to do experiments on it right now to figure out how can we find alignment if that future was to come to pass.
Wow, that's interesting. That's a lot that's happening, I guess, around the AI space and what they're experimenting. But I guess, I guess what I hear is it's hard to prophesy or predict the future. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that is predicated on what happens today, and what we do now. So if we just let loose, just let it go and let AI do its thing, or let, the evil scientists, or those people who don't have the right ethics and that play with it, then AI can turn into a really evil, bad thing. That, I mean, just my thoughts. But if we do something positive with it right now, and just keep compounding that effort and positivity over time, then AI has the potential to be a great thing for humanity. Yeah. So, it's true for anything in the world. Mm-hmm. Like, you give someone a tool, they can use it as a weapon, mm-hmm. or they can use it to fix something, or build something. Yeah. Right? And if it keeps being used as a weapon, people are just going to look at it as a weapon. Yeah, man. But if they keep using it as a tool, it's going to be this useful thing. Yeah. So so for me, I think that there's a balance, and I think it's what we do now that matters most. That influences what the future looks like with AI. Okay. So how can we do more positivity? I want to come back to this. Might sound like a really complex question, but obviously, when we're talking about Pacific and Māori, we have our own values, we have our own culture. Yeah. Do you see something like AI or technology enhancing culture, or how would that work?
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a sticky one for me too, because I feel like it can. But I'm also coming from a space of, like, I'm not, I guess, and not to say I need to be an expert, but like, I'm not the most knowledgeable when it comes to my own culture as well. So like you gave the example, right, of it being able to talk the reo or talk language back to us. So for me, like, I'm actually using it for that example. The pronunciation is obviously not there yet, but and hope it'll get better. But through talking to it and trying to learn reo, like, I'm like picking up stuff that I wouldn't be able to do. So I've done reo classes, and I know there's emergence, and I'm for them. But for me, getting that time, and sometimes I don't prioritize it. It just slips away, and that opportunity to like practice it with others is not there for me. So having something that's in my pocket, being able to do it, is cool. But I've actually talked to some people. They're like, for the language like the reo, it's a spoken language. It's a language that you speak with others with. So for me, I feel like it can. But then there are some questions around the way that we probably act and see, the way that we do things, and maybe how it challenges it. Now, I'm not to say that that's what everyone thinks, but I can see how people be like, I don't know if AI should be helping us with that. So yeah, long story short, I think it can enable us in terms of even just learning history, and trying to ask questions around it. It may not have the right answers, but I remember being a young, kid at school and just watching some of these documentaries and thought like, oh man, like, these are cool, but always thought like, wow, it would have been cool to be there. And there's these things where you can go on that are AI enabled, that you can talk to Cleopatra and talk to all these things. So I kind of think like, man, imagine if we had all this journals or if not journals, data and knowledge around some of our people that were there. Obviously, you're not going to give a first real experience of like what it actually was like to talk to that person or be with that person. But it's like, if I'm a young Māori, young Kokalan, and that want to learn my history, and I could talk to my great grandfather and had all this history to talk to, I feel like that would be cool. Again, it raises ethical things and all of that. So for me, I think AI can definitely play a part. But I do think it will raise questions around, our communities around what does that mean? And how do we hold on to our traditions while also kind of trying to lean into some of the stuff?
Yeah, well, it's a really interesting topic, artificial intelligence, just in general, technology.
Yep.
Has always been a tricky one, especially for our Pacifica and Māori, and whether that helps enhance or take away from our culture. But I like what you said, like, when we're talking about our culture, we are talking about language, we are talking about history, we are talking about stories. Like, AI can help us enhance those things. So it depends. You can come at any angle.
Yeah.
But if you come with it, and I'll be honest, I use it in business. I use it with emails. I use it to help me put stories together, write articles. It's helped me make money faster. Mm-hmm. It's helped me close deals faster. It's helped me problem solve faster. So I definitely am pro AI, and I'm all for artificial intelligence. But I think the important part, which is what you're doing, is understanding what it is first, its potential, and then knowing how to use it for your benefit.
Yeah.
And that's how you really unleash your greatness with artificial intelligence. So, look, thank you again so much for just spending time with us today and helping us understand this thing, AI, artificial intelligence. And, you're doing your amazing work out there for our Pacific and Māori people. Like we said earlier, they're behind when it comes to technology. There's a huge digital divide in terms of skills for our people versus the rest. So with things like AI is making it bigger. And what you're doing is trying to help solve that problem, give back to our people. If there's one big takeaway that you want our audience to take away from our conversation today, what would that be?
Just one. That's a tough one. I'm gonna cheat and say two. That's okay.
Perfect.
I think you just talked about it too. Is realizing that it helps us solve stuff. Okay, so for me, it's like when we're talking about us in the digital divide, like Māori Pacific and the digital divide, and we're talking about this technology, how can we use it? I don't think we're incapable of using it. I just think we haven't been either shown or given sometimes that chance to do it. I think we would thrive, and I think if you understand it's all about solving, you're not going there to search, for something. If you go in there with just like, I got a problem, I write it in whatever way I want to write it. I honestly, if you ever look at some of my chats, you'll be like, I know he talks English, but does he actually know English? Because what is he saying? Grammar's all over the place. Like, it doesn't even make sense. But it's intelligent enough to kind of pick up where you're going with it. And if it's not, it will kind of go on its own tangent, and you're like, oh, no, I'm not asking that, but now you've given me some thought of what I'm actually trying to ask. So that would be my one thing, is that realize it's all about solving, go in with a problem and use it. But also, secondly, like, I actually want to talk into hope. Like, I'm very optimistic about the future. I know I talked into some things that are a bit scary, and I'm not trying to claim that I'm like the expert. Like, I build systems with the work I do, and utilize AI, and have to learn some of those things so I can connect them all up. But in no way I'm an expert. I think I guess the place that I'm playing in right now is trying to say, like, I can see some things. I can see how it can help us, but also it's like, let's play that logical line of what happens next. And if we look at it, some of the challenges that are coming, and I say it in a good way too. Like, yes, there's the employment challenge, and if let's just like practice and say that happens. I think that's a good question of, like, actually for most of us, and even for myself and why I'm doing business, it's like, I'm not necessarily doing it because of the work I do. Like, I actually enjoy some of the stuff I do now because it's cool. And I found a way to, like, I found a love for it. But I'm sure we want to wake up every day and do something that we want to do. And for me, that's business right now. But I feel AI is going to be an enabler of, like, hey, why don't we take away all the stuff you don't want to do, and you get to do the stuff you want to do today. I feel like that's the future that most of us want. And I feel like AI can play a part of it. So I think there's going to be some natural tension. Like, people are going to be like, my job's going potentially, or things are happening that are not going to look so bright in the immediate future. But when you actually look at it, it's like, actually, this thing can help me do what I want to do. And I feel like for me, that's what I want to let, I guess, share. Is like, it's not really about AI for me. It's about, what do you want to do every day? How do you want to contribute to society? And then how do you use technology like AI to do that? So that's, for me, is kind of the main thing. And as someone that's Māori, someone that's tangata moana, like, I'm a big believer in mana mote hake and having our own ability to determine what we do every day. And that starts from within ourselves. But then we have these technologies that can help us determine what we do outside. So yeah, that's where I'll come from.
Very powerful. Love it. Coming straight from the heart. And I can tell just from our conversation today, there was no fluff. You're, open, honest, shared your real feelings about this AI thing and allowing people to make their own decisions around it. But, thank you so much for your time. You mentioned that you use AI for your business, or you can help people.
Yep.
If you're interested in using AI to improve your business or improve your personal life, if people are interested in that service, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so secondhalf.co.nz if you want to, especially Māori and Pacific team or organisation. I run workshops, can come straight into your workplace, run them, and just go from there. I do run programs as well, and we're looking at what else we can do to kind of help share and educate on this.
Awesome, perfect. Thank you again so much, brother, for your time, Tyrone.
Yeah, cheers. Shabre.